Welcome back to One More K, episode number 55. Today we have our first Canadian guest on the show. Yeehaw! It is Stephanie Gillis-Paulgaard. Good afternoon, Stephanie.
Hi, guys. This is exciting. First
Yay!
Canadian on the podcast.
That's true. It's always
Got
a
to get
first
that on a
somewhere.
t-shirt.
Yeah. Good morning, Ned.
Good morning, Marcus. Good morning, Stephanie. We were just working that out. We are spread through the time zones,
Mhm.
California, Edmonton, and Bali. I wonder if this is the first podcast ever to have people from Bali, Edmonton, and San Francisco on the same show.
This,
I'm going to guess you're probably right.
yeah. I think there's a lot of people between SF and Bali. Seems like a typical tech hub podcast kind of thing, but then the Canadian connection is maybe the one that makes it unique.
And you know
Uh,
what's funny about that? Where I'm sitting and joining you guys is actually the innovation agency for the city that I live in. So listen, tech is everywhere, right?
that's true. Wow.
We did do a little. Obviously, we're going to talk about running, and we would love to hear your story about it, and we'll tell people how we met. But I did see on the wonderful LinkedIn you've done founders startups before. So me and Marcus come from startup land, so we might take a minute or two to find out,
Oh,
because we have
fun.
quite a strong belief that the resolve you need for long distance running, you also need that resolve for startups,
Yep.
because both.
100%. I do that. I use that parallel a lot.
Okay. I, I've tried to make almost a living at it on LinkedIn, so I'm
You
I
do,
am
you do.
I am with you on it. But why do we do this? Like, so for our listeners, Stephanie, I remember first seeing you on the Quarantine Backyard Ultra, which was in
Mhm.
2020, and then obviously, or 21 I joined, but then obviously me and Marcus met you in Bell Buckle it's just over a month ago. It's still
Yes.
in my mind. But I would love to hear your story of kind of how, I'm going to say you're part of the storytelling of running, which is what we're going to talk about it. But
Mm.
how did you end up there?
Isn't it crazy? Um, yeah, the quarantine backyard ultra, that was fun. We were actually set. Dave Proctor, a very well-known ultra runner here in Alberta, he was due to run across Canada. He was going after the world record. And of course, COVID then shut everything down, and he was in literally the best shape of his life, and lots of fundraising efforts and everything behind that. And we just decided, well, what can we do? And Dave, being Dave, and had happened to be in Bell Buckle before, and so he knew about the backyard, and and was connected with Laz, reached out, talked to a lot of other people like Courtney Dauwalter. There was just a list, like, it was like the elite of the elite. And everybody said, well, hey, I think we can do this thing virtually. Nobody else had anything going on, right? It was like everybody was cooped up at home. And that was the start of the quarantine backyard ultra. We had it, the first one lasted 63 hours and won by an American. We did it again in July of that year because everybody was still like, hey, what's going on? And then Laz just reached out and said, hey, Stephanie, that thing that you guys did, do you think that you could maybe do it for the world championships? And that was the first time we thought, okay, yes, I think we can. And it became a bigger part of virtual races started popping up everywhere. And then I found myself in Bell Buckle for the first time as part of the broadcast team, telling those stories, the behind the scenes, what was going on in this crazy land of the backyard format. And then fast forward to just last month and was there again. So the storytelling has always been there, but it just took a different shape, I think, and some twists and turns, thanks to March of 2020 when everything kind of shut down.
Wow.
And go for it, Marcus.
Ned and I were just talking about, do you have any title or anything with backyard? We're how do you fit into backyard? I mean,
It's
when
crazy.
anyone that goes to backyard, I was there. I was blessed to be
Yeah.
there. It's you are one of the most happy, bubbling people running around. It's always very joy to see you, and but that's great. So no one can miss you basically. But then, we're just saying, how do we introduce you? And we couldn't figure out what is a title or something. Even if
Yeah.
there is a title, I don't know. That doesn't really matter. But
I
just
don't
curiosity.
listen. I don't know. the title thing doesn't really exist, other than there's a very small core group of people that have and I say it's an absolute privilege to be able to call Gary Cantrell, or Lazarus Lake, as most people know, a friend. And, when he invites you in to be a part of it, it's something quite special. So right now, I wear a few different hats when it comes to Laz and the championships. Because when you're talking about the individual championships, as we just all experienced in Bell Buckle, sure, I'm part of the broadcast team, but I also seek out sponsorship, right? Build those relationships with brands, and had the privilege in the first time around to bring in Solomon and Tailwind and, a few others. And then of course you saw Road ID, and Nat, I don't know if you're wearing your bracelet, but, Road ID and Ultra Sign Up and others to be a part of it. So that's a big part of the work that I do behind the scenes. And then also just the social media piece, being able to support Sandra, Tracy Outlaw, who's a big part of it, on the ground while the race is going on, and we're doing other things. He's building out those stories and interviewing people and putting it out on social. But in the meantime, even as you look a month later, mini series, all of the work that Fabian and his team at France are doing to keep that momentum and that, to the relive bigs. All of that is happening in the back end. And then so we start telling those stories again. And so I'm behind the scenes on the social media side as well. And then myself, I'm also a race director. So I run my own backyard here in Alberta. And so it's entering into its 5th year in 2026. So I wear a few different hats.
I could see Marcus's eyes widening when you mentioned
he's
you're
coming.
the sponsor, the brands.
He's getting the invite. You can crew him, Ned.
Yeah, absolutely. But the idea of so talk to us about, let's get into this, because that's fascinating. Sponsorship for ultra running. So as everybody knows, I'm old. You couldn't get a penny in sponsorship for ultra running, let's say 10 years ago. So of course we know running's booming, but maybe talk a little bit about this, getting sponsorship. How's it going?
Let's just stay in the fact that we're a month post Bigs for just a little while longer as I tell you the story, because you lived it, you were there. The momentum that's coming out, the media coverage that continues to come. We know that there are sponsored athletes that go to events like this, and then those brands are watching, and they're watching very closely. And let's talk about Sarah Perry. And Sarah Perry, certainly not, to discredit, because the other 3 ladies at Bigs, they all performed extremely well. But with Sarah hitting new numbers that had not been achieved before, being a sponsored athlete for Innovate, and she probably has other sponsorships, but I'm going to speak about Innovate just because they're loving every moment of this. Everything from her signing the shoes that she wore and doing social media on that, to being, on the front page of a paper, to let's just say there may be a live podcast with Laz coming up soon with Sarah. Like, there's eyes on her as one of the many athletes out of the 72 that were there. And so all of these brands are very interested to see what's happening. And then you see something like the broadcast and the level to which that broadcast was done. They start to go, well, hey, like, why is our brand not there? And look at the viewership, over 1 million people watching, over the course of the number of days. When you look at the impressions of social media, when you look at all of that earned media dollars, like what they would have to spend to get what they received for not a lot of money, it's a good investment. And so you start to look at that in a very business-like way. And we talked about business before, but it is a business. And so when you look at the top, Phil Gore, Sarah Harvey, and you go through all of the list, you go, what are they wearing? What are they drinking? What are they eating? Whatever. And then we start to go, well, hey, what aligns to what Backyard is all about? And believe it or not, there's people that are knocking on our door, to also go, how do I? So it does happen, but it's a process, and these are all based on relationships and building that and demonstrating that value. So we work really hard, and certainly I've seen since we did the first broadcast, and we did that in challenging times through COVID. Travel visas were a problem. A lot of athletes couldn't make it to Bell Buckle, but we did it, and it was very grassroots, and that's one of the beautiful things about the backyard. In fact, that's the name of my backyard race, is Grassroots. But that's it. And so continuing these conversations, it's the fun, because you see the excitement in what, again, Laz has created around the world.
Mm.
You know, it's
You mentioned viewership. You mentioned 1 million viewers.
Yeah.
Can you take us through some of the other stats that you can share of like how you define success of this?
Yeah. I mean, okay. So for instance, on Instagram, we started with what would have been about 18,000 followers. And that's a great number, but it's kind of a vanity metric. You start looking at what are the engagement rates, what's the other things that are going on. And we didn't have a lot of content. So we started the Backyard Weekly with Pato, we were pushing that out, and that was great. That was a great addition to the YouTube channel. And so it drove people, and it had some consistency and some cadence. But when you started to see the lead in, and then over the course of the 5 days of the race, well, just shy of 5 days, obviously, and then the post, what's beautiful about it is people aren't falling off. They're staying engaged. We've climbed on the Instagram from over 18,000 to over 32,000. And that was really in 5 days. And now, again, you're not seeing it fall off. When I look at the numbers of impressions, or the percentage of engagement, right? Engagement rate, it is the highest I've seen on a lot of businesses that I've worked with. Then you go and you see the same thing. I mean, anybody who's been following, or maybe they'll start to follow it as a direct result of this conversation. You look at Facebook again, right? It's sitting at over 55,000 right now. What we did differently is, and anybody who's been following it for a long time, or following Laz, they would have known that he's very used to going after every loop and going into the little room and writing a very cryptic message about what has gone on in the last hour. Well, this year, we were very intentional to get him live on the YouTube. So he still went and he did some writing, but a lot less writing than what people in past years would have seen him do, because the engagement, and we know how strongly video performs, and the fact that we opened up the comments and he was directly interacting with and answering questions as they were coming through, or we were bringing them up and asking him to talk about it, and again, when Laz laughs, everybody laughs. So it was just a good time. And then you saw the YouTube channel just go, which we anticipated it would go a little bit, but it went. And now we're doing YouTube Shorts, and we look and we see 10,000 views for a minute long clip, because we're using the technology and the available platforms for free to be able to serve this up to the world. And now monetization is a thing, the brand partnerships is a thing, and again, people see the value in it. I hope that answers some of the questions.
Oh my God, Stephanie, I think we could sit all day and talk about this, because we're fascinated with the business of, I can see Marcus's mind going around. You know what strikes me? I knew you guys were doing a good job. I could tell, like 100%.
Thank you.
But when we think about the juxtaposition, Laz's little parking lot area, which really is, when you first see it, just a few tents in the wood. Marcus has traveled to Western States in UTMB and seen all of this. And then it looks incredibly grassroots, which it is. But then listening to you talk about the unbelievably professional work behind the scene, I wonder if that's what captures it as well, because it seems you guys do such a good job. The quality of the YouTube, you're getting sponsors, set against this little parking lot in the woods.
That's
I think that's really strikes a chord with me.
It is. And even just to get that quality, most people wouldn't even understand Naresh and what they have to go through to make sure that we have a strong signal to be able to push out a live feed. He's in the middle of nowhere. Okay. The amount of, everybody's trying to be like, wait, now say that again. The Wi-Fi is not good, and trying to, here, wait. But no, it's Starlink, all of that. Not that Elon needs a plug, but I mean, there's many things that had to go into it. I mean, the broadcast team, none of us were, sorry, I lie. One person from the US. You had Eric Keeler. He flew in from the UK. Volunteers, right? We're volunteers. So UK to come in. Myself, obviously from Canada. We had Dawn come in from Arizona. So again, still having to make her way across the US. And then the entire camera crew and the director and his team, they were all from France. It all costs money to produce what people get to see.
Wow.
And it's not a small undertaking. So I say kudos to all of them. Sleepless and trying to figure it out. And the biggest thing is, get a stable Wi-Fi.
That's
If you
true.
don't have that, it's really, really hard. Yeah.
Wow. I have to ask this question now.
Yeah.
Is there like a UTMB moment when UTMB started as a grassroots moment, and then I don't know when it was. I was too young for this, but 2008 or something. I was probably just a teenager still then, but not even know where UTMB is. But there was a time where it also was more grassroots, and then like the big brands jumped into it, and then Killian came and the others came, and boom, yeah.
Right.
Are we having now a UTMB moment of
yes.
Backyard? Is it happening now?
It started about 18 months ago. In my mind, that's when it really started to click. I have the privilege, and I've had the privilege to be like the team manager for the Canadian national team when we do the team championships, which will be obviously in 2026. And I've been able to do that piece as well and watch, but it's amazing to see the growth, right? Over 600 backyards across the world. Laz already, if I may get this wrong, but I think he said that there were almost 70 countries who had already said, we want to be a part of the team championships. And some of them are very, very small, but they see what is happening and they want to be a part of it. And that's something super special that you don't see. The other piece to the grassroots point that you made, it's really important to maintain that. Even the partners that we have the privilege to work with, they understand that. And that's also a challenge to find when you're talking about big brands. I mean, many brands, obviously, they want the visibility. They want to be a part of that. And in some cases have been criticized for going in and taking over. We don't want that to happen. And so even when we're having conversations with potential brands, it needs to be the right fit. It needs to be that perfect marriage of, you need to respect what's been built and allow it to be and continue to be what the beauty of it is. But we would love to have you be part of the family. But there has to be that understanding.
All of us have done startups. We know we've all had ideas that we've taken from our soul and built, but then we need to make profit. And they can stand in contrast. Obviously, Backyard is Laz's, but I actually had very lucky when I came back to watch. In between one loop, he just happened to stand by me, and we chatted for almost an hour. And I asked him, where is Backyard going? And he acknowledged what you acknowledged. He didn't say UTMB moment. He said, I realize this is bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
How do we do this? I mean, not we, because I don't do much about it, but Stephanie, do you guys sit and, because I asked Laz, he said, we're thinking. Is it that core group? Are you guys thinking? Because, you know what, and not to crap on Hoka, nothing about Hoka. What if Hoka came in and said, we want it to be just us, here's $10 million, let's go, and it's all Hoka, and we move it, and you know, not saying Hoka would do that per se.
Well, likely anybody, whether it was Hoka or someone else that had that approach, it probably wouldn't work, right? Because it wouldn't feel the same. And there is a core group, and, you know, we were just on a strategy call last week. Right? It is what's next. It is how do we continue to build the momentum to give and shine the light on the people that are making this happen. And so but Laz is at the core of all of it. And Sandra. I mean, we talk a lot about Laz, but let's be honest. Sandra, she's the boss lady. And you guys saw her in full force in Bell Buckle, right? I mean, he gets a lot of the accolades, and he should for all of the reasons that he does, but they are a team, and they do this and build this together.
So we talk, just to follow up to that. So
Uh-huh.
100%. Sandra's amazing. We've seen it. You're dealing with sponsors. So I'm interested in how this is going to work. So there's sponsors for the backyard. So for example, Athlete ID, Ultra Sign Up,
Yeah.
we could see. But there's athlete sponsor. I listened
Yes.
to Phil Gore on Pado's show the other
Yes.
day, and he said, I would like a professional league. Now, the word
Yes.
professional and league suggests Phil makes money.
Oh,
Any
yes.
thoughts on where the money comes to the races, to the athlete? I know that's a complex question.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there can be as little as, which it's so personal. Somebody might be totally happy saying that they're a sponsored athlete to get free footwear for the rest of their life or for the rest of their running career. Great. Obviously, when you're talking about what we just experienced in Bell Buckle, for the better part, you're talking about the elite, right? So there is definitely money to be made. It's not hockey player salary and it's not a lot of those other sports. Of course, I think it's worth more, but nonetheless, this endurance piece, that's where I think you're going to see it. It's, yeah, of course there's Olympic trials and people are going out and doing and smashing records all the time, but in this world, in the ultra running, when they're doing these extra long races, and by chance in the backyard that we're talking about, it's broadcast live, the visibility, the everything else. I mean, the value, just you hear cha-ching. If you're a marketer or if you're in PR and you do this stuff like I do, you're just thinking, oh, that's money. That's money every time that person goes through the corral and whatever brand is displayed across their chest. Now, the beautiful part is Laz doesn't prevent runners from, he understands there are sponsorship, there are individual deals that have been made, contracts that have been signed for these athletes, and he wants to be respectful of that, but we also have to manage it because we bring in the sponsors to do the broadcast, right? So there is a balance for sure that needs to happen, but I think it's very, very personal when an athlete knows that they want to go professional. They have to have already delivered on so many fronts to be able to serve themselves up and go, no, I want you. And Sam Harvey actually talked about it when we had him in the tent. I don't remember what day it was. I don't even remember what hour it was, but he was in there and he actually talked about it because somebody asked him a question in the chat about either the shoe that he was wearing or whatever, and he walked them through. He gave an answer about what his favorite ones were for different things, and he goes, yeah, no, full disclosure, of course I'm sponsored by these guys, because he said when I wanted to go pro, I liked these shoes. And at first I didn't think I was going with these guys, but they gave me a shoe that did everything that I wanted to do. And I was like, all right, they get me. So there's got to be a little bit of like, they get me. It's a personality too, right? And the brand it is going to be assessing all of those things.
We had Sam on our show a couple of, early on, and we,
Hmm.
the famous Dead Cow Gully
Yes.
Breaking Point documentary, which at the end of the show, he said, I gave up my job to come and run this race because they'd taken me time off. And he
Yeah.
said, I guess I'm a running bum now. Fast
Yeah.
forward 2 years later, see
Yeah.
Sam in Bell Buckle. I've been chatting with him online, and I asked him the same question. Hey, dude. And I thought the answer would be no. I'm like, hey, dude, are you making it as a running bum? And he smiled and said, no, dude, I'm making it as a running pro. And
Yeah.
that look on his face,
That's
I
right.
mean, I didn't ask the number, but he's
Right.
making enough to make himself happy.
That and again, I don't want to sit here and claim like I know Sam's full business model, but the and I was a little tired when we had him in the tent talking, but what I recall is somebody asked a very specific question. He goes, well, listen, my athletes pay for that knowledge. So he's also coaching, and everything. And so, but he's built an entire business around something that he loves, which just happens to be run long distances and do crazy stuff. He talked about biking from one point in New Zealand to another one, or he had to go, and it was just like, but this is a certain type of individual, right? Ultra runners are a certain type of individual, type A kind of fun, willing to do, but the brands are noticing and they're paying for it.
On the front of I guess, the type and the storytelling piece.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this going? Or actually, where are we right now first before we talk about where it's going? Because you have now every day another YouTube documentary being released. You have another Instagram shot coming out. You
Yeah.
have so many races. I mean, even influencers get banned now running with cameras. Matt Choi, New York
Uh-huh.
Marathon, right? So influencers themselves are getting just like boom everywhere. It's coming out of nowhere. So you've been in this industry for long enough. So what is the state of storytelling of ultra runners now?
Mm. Um, there's just so many moments. And I look at it not just in the running, maybe it's just in everyday life, like because when you're a storyteller, you're a storyteller. You see things differently. You're able to pick out a story or pick out a moment, and you use that to inspire, right? To motivate, to serve, to raise money, to do all of the things. And we're trying to do a lot of things here, but first and foremost, it is that personal story, that moment, even in the hard, and there's sensitivity around that, right? You saw it again in bell buckle. um, there were some disqualifications. There were a lot of difficult moments, and it's a fine line. And Laz is a believer of this, as am I. It's never to put somebody in a bad light, but we are still trying to tell the story, and knowing how to do that. I mean, that's why I give kudos to the guys behind the camera, literally walking around with the camera. They see it, they can recognize it right away. And if they can't do that, or if you can't do it, or if I can't do it, then the world doesn't get to experience that. You'll never see it on social media because we weren't thoughtful enough to have identified it as a potential story. So there was some prep work, and again, this wasn't their first time doing this type of product. These guys, if you ever took a look at their own Instagram, they are sports journalists. They are people that have done amazing documentaries, photographers, like everything, and so they've got a unique skill set, and we have to match it up. Where we get into the building the story of the backyard, as an example, or a UTMB, or a marathon, or a Western States, whatever it is. It's from the moment of, is my name going to be drawn for the lottery this year? I've got this many tickets in because I've been waiting for years, all the way to I crossed the finish line, or I DNF'd, or whatever. So there's so many moments, but it does take a very unique skill set to identify all of those magical moments that we end up seeing in these mini series that we're now putting together. Where's it going? I think it's just going to get more raw. It's how more real can it be than us sticking a camera in? I mean, I'm not behind the camera as part of the broadcast crew there, but going in as Lucas is cramping up and can't even lay down. And this guy, meanwhile, has a personal best of 116, loops, and he's out so much earlier than anybody thought. And how do you show him respect for what he achieved previously to showing the real moment? Like, it's gonna get raw, and it just will. And we know that people will tune in for it because it's a real story. This is a human being. So that, I mean, you're never going to lose that. That is what storytelling is.
Yeah.
Do you? Was it? So when of course, I watch everything about backyard endlessly. So it's all I do with my life, obviously. And I'm watching these clips that these 9-10 minute shows that you're putting out. To take Lukash, I mean, I got to chat with Lucas. What a great guy. The difference between him telling his story and you telling his story. This is what I'm fascinated about, in not just backyard, but in ultra. And look, you've been in, I would, later on I'd love to, because you've been in corporate communications for corporates and everything. And obviously you're taking your knowledge there. How much is the responsibility on the athlete to tell their story, and how much do they hand it over to
that's an
the team?
interesting one, right? Because in those cases, so many, like, it's actually unpredictable. You don't know. I mean, I know now about Harvey Lewis what I didn't know the first time, in 2021, trying to do it, because Harvey keeps to himself. Like he's going to hold his cards really close to his chest, and he doesn't want the camera going into the tent and seeing certain things, because it's all strategy, and I get that. And he's also just trying to keep himself focused. And then there's other people that, no, man, ask me any question. I'm sitting here eating my food. So the personality and reading that personality, and knowing when to back off, it's important. But yeah, every athlete is kind of different. I remember the year Courtney and Maggie, again, 2020, were there, and they decided they just were done. And they walked back in together, and instantly went to their tents, and the tarps were closed off, and they wanted no cameras. And that's, you have to respect that, so we try to do our best to tell the story in a very respectful way. But I do believe that when you're it's kind of like the celebrities, like they say, oh, I didn't ask for this, I'm being paparazzi everywhere and everything. Oh, dare I say, there's a little bit of that in ultra running. These are personalities. People are invested in you, or they want to hear the story. And so you do your best to identify it, again, very respectfully. And that's why we've always talked to the crew too, right? The crew is just as important to be able to read what's happening with their runner and go, not now, Stephanie. You can't interview Ned right now. I know he looks like he's happy, but right now I got to talk to him, or I got to get him ready for his next loop, and he's got to stay focused. He can't be talking to you right now. And we had that happen several times in Bell Buckle, where we thought it was good, or the camera guy thought it was good to follow in and start talking. We're like, they got to get ready. They've got 2 minutes left. The third 3-minute whistle had already gone, right? And you can't interview them right now. so again, right? Because we're invested in the story. We want to tell the story, but it is a little bit of give and take.
I heard this phrase a long time ago, that likes ain't cash. So when you're building your presence online,
Yes.
likes
Yeah.
ain't cash, but likes turn
Yeah.
into cash if you get enough. In
That's right.
reality, I'm going to say the top end of ultra running,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's Killian, Courtney, Phil, Sam,
Yeah.
Harvey, the VK, wherever it is, results against influence. You don't need to win races anymore. So they
Nope.
kind of have to let you in. I'm wondering how that balance is turning. Clearly, Phil is the GOAT of backyard
Yes.
sport, but there's plenty of, like Marcus mentioned, Matt Choi. He's not winning the New
Yes.
York Marathon. He's running 250, totally respectfully. And
Yeah.
I don't know how much money he makes, but I imagine he's making more than zero. What's your
Yes.
views that, of course, the gold medalist is always going to
Mm-hmm.
get paid. After that, are we all just trying to become storytellers and make a buck off it?
And I think the answer to that is, it's possible. Listen, now more than ever, if you are scrolling through social media after the biggest marathons, New York, Boston, Berlin, doesn't matter where, right? They are giving just as much camera time to the person who crosses last as the person who crossed first. And if that story resonates, that's worth money, right? I mean, that's the reality. That's the business side of this. And so no more is it just the top 3 on the podium and they get all the celebration and the fanfare and nobody else gets talked about. Somebody holds a sign up. That's my mom who just survived breast cancer, and this is now the thing. And now there's a GoFundMe to get her to the next one. It is literally, follow the dots, people. The money is there. Now, again, I'm not trying to make it about money. That's just a reality. That's the fact of where we are right now. Somebody who is the first one to tap out of anything still might, if their story is told, or they make themselves visible, or they go and do a selfie and post about what was going on during the race, or they make a video or go live, or we get the chance to interview them even after the race. There's all of this. It's no longer just, it happened a month ago and you're not going to hear about it again until next year. It is every day in your face. And brands and businesses and athletes that are trying to go pro or attract a brand, they need all of it.
when you work with brands, do they tell you we want to hear specific type of stories? Like, do they give
Yes.
you any kind of okay, all right, here we go,
Oh,
like
yeah.
like
But again, that also helps identify, right? I mean, uh, it's been talked about lots, not here necessarily, although we might dive into it now. The notion of just how far will a female runner ever get in the backyard? And that was the story for so long. And they're breaking records over and over and over again. And now you have, I can't sit here and tell you exactly, but which brands. There are many, though, I know, that are like, we are aligned to the female athlete. They sell the this, they sell the that, they want that. Hey, are you guys doing this? Who's your lineup? Let us see who's actually confirmed to be in the 75. And then they go, oh, well, that person's sponsored by this, and that was it. Oh, here's 3 of our athletes. Now it's more interesting to us. We have 3 athletes that we think are going to break 100, and then they equate it, right? They've got market spend. We just have to start having those conversations earlier in the mix, because I just don't see it slowing down. And I don't, I mean, the numbers that are being achieved right now, it's crazy. And it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. It's being done.
Obviously, because I look at it, Sarah Perry with Innovate is getting good on her, and having again chatted to her, what a wonderfully beautiful human, mild-mannered, not at all.
Yes.
But then you think about it on the other side, and I don't know, I didn't get to talk to Jennifer Russo so much, but Jennifer, who is 59 and ran 74 yards, I believe, the greatest. She was in the
Dead cow. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, at Dead Cow.
Correct.
Yeah.
And again, that's a different story from Sarah.
Totally.
Sarah or Meg are going to go over 100. Like, no doubt, one of them will go over 100.
Yeah.
But the Jennifer story, from a female point of view, I don't know if they're banging her door down, but your point is right. There's different athletes, different brands to align with different, Jennifer may never break the world record or break 100, but what she's done is equally, if not more.
Exactly. And inspiring a whole, maybe possibly new, or ones that never thought that they could because of their age. Ageism is a real thing. So, now you go and you say, oh, well, what brand is trying to market to this demographic? Boom, that's our girl. Like, literally, right? They're scraping the internet. They're looking at all these races. It's absolutely crazy. And then you look at the Barkley, and it's a completely different, it's not to say that people like Harvey and others. I mean, Ihor, who was the assist, he went off after doing that in Bell Buckle, and he crushed Barkley. In the year that was the most ever. And then you're like, oh man, he had to do it in the year that it was the most ever. Was he lost amongst no? And he's the most humble guy. And I think that's the other thing, is the humility that comes from so many of these athletes. And then again, right, how they're served up on social media. What is the story that they're telling, and who do they attract, and why are they there? It's a whole other angle when you think about the marketing side.
I'm curious, do you see any other race format coming up that is so grassroots?
I think I'm just so backyard, Marcus. I think I'm like Ned. I think
you're in it.
I live and breathe it, because like I said before, right? I am a race director of the Grassroots Backyard Ultra. So I'm always thinking about that race. And when I'm not thinking about that race, I'm usually talking to Laz or Fabian about what new content are we doing, or what's the interview lineup. Laz is going to get more involved in doing news kind of stuff with the backyard. And it's crazy. So as soon as you finish the individual championships, you're already thinking about the team national championships, and 12 months goes by super fast.
Just to put I wrote, at the end of each of our shows, I read a little poem like I wrote about backyard. And I wrote one about backyard being at the Olympics, because one time when I was thinking about it, I'm not saying I want backyard or I think it should be in the Olympics, but can you imagine while the events are going on inside, these gladiators are running for days outside. And given that we know 1 million people
Yeah.
tuned into Bell Buckle, it's so visceral, the story.
Yes.
Hey, are these, hold on, it's Tuesday, it's Wednesday, and these
Yeah.
gladiators are
They're
still
still
running around
going.
the
Yeah.
outside of, so I don't want to give you more work.
Yeah. No, don't hurt my head, Ned. Don't hurt my head.
That would
I
be,
don't know that I can handle any more backyard, but it's just, like I said, you already said it. I could talk about it forever because the stories that I've seen, like with my own eyes, not just on YouTube, like with my eyeballs in front of me going, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe he got into the corral and turned around and look at did you guys see that? And then we talk about it for like hours. And then it's like, then you revisit it and you physically, I don't know about you guys when you watch the YouTube, because Ned, it would have been different for you while you were running. You weren't seeing what we were seeing, but to go back and relive it physically, I feel the way I felt when I was there. And it's a gift. And I always say to Les, it's just the gift that keeps on giving, like it's like the best thing. It's like Christmas every week that we get to, think about or talk about what's new, what's exciting, what records are coming down, who signed up for what. It's pretty darn
it's,
cool that we get to be a part of this little weird family.
well, and it is a little, and it is weird, and it is a family, but as Marcus, I think, made a note, and you said as well, it might not be little for so long
Yeah.
because the growth of this is crazy. But to ask about we're asking about growth, let's step back a bit and I ask why
Mhm.
you, Stephanie, and I mean that in the most respectful way. Tell us your story, because on LinkedIn, you have done startups. What
Yeah.
brought you to running? You've been in storytelling from what I
Yeah.
can tell, the beginning, what was called corporate communications, I'm going to say a
Yes.
while ago. What brought Stephanie to running and storytelling?
Yeah, well, listen, you haven't seen me on too many podiums, but I actually started running, oh, I don't know, several decades ago, and then had to give it up for a little bit because of life and little ones and lots of travel, with a corporate job, flying back and forth across the country, and then it became, no disrespect, my church. And when I moved and I'm still a what we call pace bunny or pace zebra, for road running, to help people. Most of the time, it's the half marathon distance, and I love watching somebody else achieve something that they weren't sure they were going to be able to do. Like it just makes you feel so good. And then I moved to trail running and started, again, it sounds really, really sad. My furthest distance is 50 miles, in the
Glad.
mountains here in Alberta. But, I've done a lot of 30 milers, 50Ks, and stuff like that. And then when the backyard got introduced to us, we brought Laz up from Tennessee to Alberta back in 2018 and had him there. And it was a mud fest year. Like where we had the course, it was a mud fest. Now, in my mind, I thought I was going for easy 12 hours. I was like, nah, maybe you'll get to 15. Maybe you'll hit that magical 100K mark. That's what I was training for until race day happened and the wheels fell off real early, Ned. Um, and I think I did 6 loops, and Laz, because he was our honorary RD, and he was there, and we had these custom beers that we had partnered with, because I was one of the organizers, but I decided to run it, right? I wasn't RDing. And we had these cans of beer. Again, it was something that was kind of new at the time. Now it seems everybody does it. And Laz wrote on the beer can, and I still have it. No beer in it, but I have the can. It says, "Why not 7?" Right? Like, why not one more? Right? In
Sure,
true Laz fashion. And he
sure.
writes his name Laz and whatever. And I was like, oh, well, that irritates me. I think I have to try better. And then I realized, no, I don't like racing it. I love organizing it. And I love being able to do that as a way to give back to the community. So I've actually, like I say, I've been a runner for a long time. I'm not speedy by any means. I wasn't bad in my 20s, but but the number now starts with a 5. So it's kind of gone downhill for me. But really, it's just It's the simple love of what that community has done for me. And yeah, it's where I go, even on those hard days of in the corporate grind. I solve some of those problems out on the trail, and for me, it's pretty darn cool. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, like, I see Stephanie's all about this backyard thing, and then I hear a lot of your startup and corporate background as well.
Mhm.
Like, how do you manage all of this at the same time and also traveling so much?
Yeah. Well, I don't do that gig anymore. I started my own agency 10 and a half years ago. So then that was kind of fun. And that meant that I didn't have to travel as much initially. And then I started traveling internationally. So I kind of, I pulled back for a little bit and then went all in. Yeah, I don't know. I'm an early riser and I go to bed very early. And my husband reminds me that when I'm running, he goes, we do have cars that go that far. And I say that's cool, because for me it is. It's something else. And when you're have maybe some entrepreneurial spirit in you running through your veins, I just we talked about this almost right beforehand. Like I just see such parallels between entrepreneurship and the ultra runner or the endurance athlete, or just trying to find the limit and then surpass it. I'm never just thinking about this week or next month. I'm already usually 5 years out. And where are we trying to get to? And what's that work back plan? And how do I do this? And for me, everything that I've done, and I've been privileged to work with some incredible people, and I still get to this day, it's all relationship based. And it, I'm not saying there's not hard days. There's lots of hard days. But when you love it, and you know that you're creating a space for someone else to shine, there is no better feeling in the world. I don't need the podium. I don't need any of that. I love to create the space for somebody else. I think
And
that's where it comes from.
it makes so much sense. Hey, you know what they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In saying that, so I do know you have your own PR communications
Yes.
agency.
Yep.
Do you see a time when your actual entrepreneurship and your backyard come together, that you basically run the backyard athlete agency, PR agency, media? Is that 5 years
Yeah.
out?
I mean, listen, it's kind of weird to say it, but it's kind of happening. It's just, it's happening in the most organic and beautiful way that it's not about money. And I think because I don't want to sound hokey, but I come with an abundance mindset. There's enough for all of us. So I'm not ever worried about that. I want to build the relationships and I want to do those things. And I have the privilege to work with Laz and Sandra and Tracy and Naresh and Fabian and Gavin and Eric. And it's wonderful to be a part of. Now, Laz knows that, none of us are getting younger. and, and it is formalizing or looking at how does backyard continue to grow at the rate that it's growing, to be able to create and continue to create this global family that we're all a part of in a meaningful and intentional way. And it probably requires at some point, right, more structure. And so starting to see it come together now, that's why I'm saying it's starting to happen. And then when we find these wonderful partnerships with these brands that believe in what Laz and Sandra have created and want to offer, usually it's in the form of financial support to keep other people being able to do this and build this with Laz. It's just naturally coming to be. Like it's literally we're living in it right now. You said, are we having a UTMB moment? Well, yeah, it's different.
Yeah,
You know, I
wow.
would never compare the two. They're completely different, and yet at the same time, yes, there is this moment. And so my PR, my comms, my media and events and like all of that skill set, it's just a little sprinkle in with other sprinkles from other amazing people that are collectively trying to do something really cool and giving that, and it's happening. Yeah, but running backyard, we help support backyard, right? It's Laz and Sandra all the way, and I love it, and I love every moment of it. And so as long as they'll keep me around, I'm going to be a part of it. Yeah, so that's really what it is.
Wow. I mean, super excited to follow this. And of course, Ned's been the biggest fan. So we will talk about this anyway every week on this podcast. So that's, I'm not worried
I
about
love it.
getting update. But I mean, yeah, really, really, really excited to continue the journey, and maybe get you back in 1 year time, and then all of this will look different again, and then we have maybe
Oh,
more talk about the structure of backyard,
I'll come
another
on with
topic.
breaking news next time, Marcus.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
breaking news that drives the numbers up of our podcast, please. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, great. No, but thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining us. Really, really cool to hear your perspective, and also for me to hear something different than just Ned's voice about backyard. Is kind of have an alternative input source here.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks
Yeah,
so much to both of you for having me. It's been wonderful.
thank you. We have Ned for his poem. We're calling it the Ned's Drop of Wisdom. So I'm gonna, before we wrap up the whole episode, we're gonna just have Ned drop your wisdom, please. Go ahead, Ned. Take it away.
Well, thank you very much. And Stephanie, thank you. Again, it does strike me when you love something so passionate the amount of work you put in doesn't matter. So thank you for doing what you do for the sport, because it does mean a lot. And you can really sense when people who don't run look at backyard and they say, that's amazing. That's very special. So thank you for you and your,
Thank you.
and all the camera crew and everybody who does Naresh, and, to just not to, well, I'm going to name one, looking at what Jacob has done, all of his camera work, both from war zones and ultra running, and the talent of people that you have there. It's incredible. So thank you for bringing all of that together.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Okay. So I wrote so each week I write a little poem. I need to find a better word than poem, because it's not poetry. It's just me writing stuff. But all right, let's go. This one is called Hard Work or Talent. Hard work or talent? Smiley face. Someone asked me this, not about me, just in general. But it made me wonder, because I have one of these, not the other. But isn't that what running is? The talent to work hard? Talent, dictionary, definition. A natural skill or ability to be good at something, especially without being taught. But how do we get taught running? Surely we don't. Humans are the best runners ever. We can outrun any other talented animal. So does that mean that we all have talent? Because we just get born knowing how to run. So then it comes to hard work. The more we run, the more we run. Can anybody be the best runner? Whatever best means. It got me thinking, what if you ran all day and never stopped? Would you be the most talented runner? Could anyone be the most talented runner ever? If only there was a competition that could see who could run forever. Now that would be cool. Hard work or talent? The actual answer is the talent to work hard. Get out there, Ned.
Thanks, Ned.
I did
Wonderful.
it on the wonderful LinkedIn. Somebody was talking about talent or hard work, and it just got me thinking. And I actually looked at the definition of talent, and it is a skill that is untaught. And then I was like, isn't running untaught? And then therefore, isn't it just hard work? Anyway, a longer debate that we have time for. But yeah, I think it's more of a hard work thing.
That's true. Well, thanks, both of you. Thanks so much. Thanks, Stephanie, again. And yeah, looking forward to the engagement online. the numbers. And anyone out there, thanks for listening, of course, and tuning in for the One More K podcast. Until next week, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.